If roast chicken is my all-time favorite dinner, my second favorite dinner is grilled roasted chicken. Whole chickens on the grill that are butterflied. I always throw some lemons on the grill because it makes an incredible sauce. I'm gonna serve this with a simple French-style tian. Now, tian is simply thinly sliced vegetables arranged in a shallow dish and baked in the oven. And we're gonna finish it all with a big old batch of sangria. I mentioned we're making lemon chicken, and the way we're gonna get the lemon flavor into the chicken is through a little lemon zest right under the skin. So taking one of these lemons and my trusty rasp style grater, I'm gonna zest a lemon, looking for about 2 teaspoons of lemon zest. Of course, I washed these lemons already. All right. So I'm just cutting these lemons all in half. There's about 5 lemons, including the one I zested. I'm gonna throw these on the grill right next to the chicken so they get some nice grill marks. And the flavor of a grilled lemon, if you've never had it, is its own thing. The acidity dies away and the sweetness comes out. And of course you get the char and the smoke from the grill, and it makes the best sauce. All right, so these are ready for the grill. Now let's make the salt and pepper and lemon zest rub that we're gonna put under the chicken skin. So again, that's 2 teaspoons of lemon zest. To that, I'm gonna add 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Oh, when the zest hits the salt, it really brings out all the aroma. Okay, I'm also gonna make a little bowl of salt and pepper to sprinkle over the top of the chickens, because by the time I get there, my hands are gonna be all chickeny. So this is a nice little bowl where I don't have to worry about contaminating my bigger things of salt and pepper. All right, there we go. Those are ready to go. Now time for the chicken. We're gonna roast 2 chickens because my theory is if you're gonna cook 1 chicken, you might as well cook 2 and have great leftovers. So these are officially broiler chickens. They're 3.5 to 4 pounds each. And I'm gonna show you how to butterfly them. Now I've already butterflied 1. Butterflying is a great trick if you're cooking them on the grill because a flat chicken just cooks more evenly and is easier to maneuver around the hot grill. So here we have the chicken. I'm gonna flip it over on its back, and I'm gonna use a good pair of poultry shears. We're just gonna cut up either side of the backbone. And I save every backbone. I actually have a bin of them in the freezer. And when the bin's full, I make a big pot of broth in an electric pressure cooker. And then that is liquid gold in the freezer. Okay, so up one side, just cutting out the backbone. And this is why I love a good pair of chicken shears. I actually just call them chickens now. Everyone in my house calls scissors chickens because I'm usually cutting up chicken with them. So good pair of chickens is good, saving the backbone for later. All right, now let's flip the bird over. You can see the wings are tucked nicely out of the way. That's good. That gives you a nice surface area for the chicken to hit the grill. Now we're gonna flatten it out. You just wanna press on it a little bit to crack that breastbone. Now I'm gonna cover it with plastic wrap that I've already got waiting for me. Again, because my hands are chickeny, I'm being very careful with what I'm touching. Give it a quick pound with a meat pounder. You really just have to focus on the breast here. That's good. And again, that just helps it stay nice and flat so it cooks evenly. All right, now let's bring both chickens up onto the board. And now I'm gonna use my fingers, turning the chickens around. I'm just loosening the skin on the breast and the thigh. And that makes a nice little pocket for me to slide this lemon zest, salt and pepper mixture underneath. All right, now I'm gonna lift up the skin, put some of that mixture underneath. All right, and now I'm just gonna rub it all in. I try to get the mixture under the skin and then work to rub it around. Oh, by rubbing this lemon zest and the salt into the meat, you get a lovely lemon flavor. All right, that's 1 chicken done. Chicken number 2, get all that mixture underneath there. Now rub it all in. Now I'm just gonna put some salt and pepper on the outside. All right, so now we're gonna put the chickens on a wire rack, and I'm gonna let these refrigerate uncovered for at least an hour. You can do this up to a day ahead. And of course, the longer you let them sit with the salt and the lemon zest, the more flavor they get. So now I'm gonna clean this all up, wash my hands, and then we can make a big old batch of sangria. Now it's time to make the sangria, and I've been making this sangria for well over 20 years. The recipe was developed by my friend Adam Reed, who is the equipment guy on America's Test Kitchen and Cook's Country, and I love it because it is very simple. There's just a little bit of citrus, a little bit of sweetness, but it's really just about enhancing the wine and making it summery. So no bells and whistles here. So to start, we're gonna make a big old batch. So 2 bottles of wine, and for that you need 2 lemons and 3 oranges. And I'm gonna slice the lemons and oranges, 2 of each. I don't tend to use the ends, just sort of the meaty centers. I'm just gonna slice them nice and thin. I'm just gonna add the lemons to my big old sangria serving jar, which I bought specifically for sangria. Now I'm gonna do the same with 2 oranges. Trim off the ends. This one I'm not gonna slice, I'm gonna juice it right into the container. So 2 oranges sliced, 1 juiced. We're gonna add these to the container. As I mentioned, we're gonna juice this orange. I know it's a lime juicer, but it works just fine for oranges. Now, the liquids. We're gonna add 4 ounces of simple syrup. And this simple syrup is simply equal parts water and sugar. And to make simple syrup, I just use a big old glass measuring cup. I use boiling water from the kettle and an equal amount of sugar, whisk it together and you're good to go. So 4 ounces simple syrup. And this next ingredient, Grand Marnier, is really what makes good sangria. So you need an orange liqueur, and you could use triple sec or other orange liqueurs you find on the market. But Grand Marnier, I think, gives it a little something extra because it's triple sec plus brandy. And it is great for cocktails because it has a really nice balance of the orange bitterness and the sweetness. So to make a killer sangria, use Grand Marnier. 4 ounces of that. All that's left in this very simple sangria is the wine. Now, don't use an expensive wine here. I never go over $10, and I like to use a medium-bodied wine like a Merlot or a Pinot Noir. Screw tops, there's a rule in our house. If it has a screw top, and you know, there's no pomp and circumstance to using a corkscrew. So my husband taught me to do this. Ready? That's how you professionally open a bottle with a screw on top. Just makes it a little fancier. All right, so 2 bottles of wine. This is also a restaurant trick. If you swirl the bottle while you empty it, it comes out twice as fast. That's all there is to this super simple sangria. Say that 10 times fast. Super simple sangria, super simple sangria. Now you gotta let this sit for at least 2 hours, but you can do it up to 8 hours in the fridge so it gets nice and cold.
At Cooks Illustrated, we're food nerds. That's why every recipe we develop involves research, cooking science, and rigorous testing by our team of expert test cooks. Only the highest rated recipes earn a place in our award-winning magazine. Every issue features our latest recipes and discoveries, cooking tips, and equipment and ingredient reviews. Our step-by-step photos and hand-drawn illustrations show you exactly how to succeed. So, are you ready to become the best cook you know? Subscribe to Cooks Illustrated magazine at cooksillustrated.com today.
Now it's time to make a simple Israeli couscous, which is an easy side dish that goes with everything. And it starts by adding a tablespoon of olive oil to a large saucepan. To that we'll add 2 cups of Israeli couscous. We're gonna cook this over medium heat for about 5 minutes until about half the grains of couscous look nice and golden toasted. Once the couscous is toasted, add half a teaspoon of salt and 2.5 cups of water. Now I'm gonna bring it to a boil, then reduce the heat to medium-low, put the lid on and let it cook for about 10 minutes until all the water is absorbed and the couscous is tender. The couscous has been cooking for 10 minutes and you can see that all the water has been absorbed and the couscous is tender. So now I'm gonna turn the heat off, put the lid on and just let it sit for about 3 minutes. It's been about 3 minutes, so I'm gonna take off the lid and fluff the couscous with a fork. Now I'm gonna add some scallions, some pepper, about half a lemon's worth of juice, and then mix that up, put the lid back on and set it aside. Now I'm gonna make the tian, which is a fancy word for sliced vegetables in a casserole dish. Now tian is a French term and it comes from the region of Provence. So Provence style vegetables that are great in the summer, like tomatoes, zucchini, and yellow squash. But on the bottom of all those shingled vegetables is a layer of caramelized onions, and that's what sends this dish over the edge. So to make caramelized onions, you gotta start with a whopping 3 onions, and I've got started here. 2 of them are already sliced. Just gonna slice up this 3rd onion. And to make sliced onions, I'm very particular about how I like to slice my onions. So I cut off the root and the end, and I sliced it in half, and now's when I peel it. You can take off that brown papery skin, and usually one of the second layers can be a little bruised. Take that off, although this onion looks pretty darn fresh. All right. Now I like to slice my onions pole to pole or with the grain because that just gives you nice gentle arcs that actually retain their texture a little bit. So to do that, half an onion, and I'm gonna angle the knife with the curve of the onion so they're all about the same size. So about halfway through, I tip it back over. That just gives me more room. Obviously, if you're left-handed, you reverse that. And when you get down to the middle, just go as far as you can. It's a little game I like to play with myself. Oh, that was a good one. So that's 3 onions. Let's get them cooking. So here I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil heating up in a 12-inch non-stick skillet. And that's over medium heat. I'm just looking for that oil to shimmer, and it's starting to shimmer. And I'm using a non-stick skillet here because I want the browning to stick to the onions, not to the pan. All right, so there are all the onions. Now I'm gonna add a little salt. This is half a teaspoon of table salt. And I'm just gonna cook this over medium heat until those onions get a nice golden brown. That takes about 15 minutes. Of course, I'll stir them occasionally. All right, I'm gonna keep my eye on those onions so they don't get away from me. But over medium heat, there's really no chance of them burning. Famous last words. All right, so now let's slice up the vegetables. This is the highlight of summer vegetables in a tian, so tomatoes, zucchini, summer squash. But when you buy them, try to look for vegetables that have a similar diameter because when we slice them into coins and layer them, you want them to be about the same size. First up, the tomatoes, which we're gonna slice 1/4 inch thick. In fact, we're gonna slice all the veg 1/4 inch thick. And if you have a dull knife, this is time to sharpen it because you're about to do a lot of veg prep. And if you really wanted to use a mandolin, by all means go ahead. But 1/4 inch thick isn't that hard to do by hand. So when you get down to the end, kind of hold it between your fingers so you can get nice slices. All right, so into a bowl they go. Trying to be as gentle as possible. You want the tomatoes to stay intact in their slices. Onto the zucchini. So that's about 1 pound of everything. 1 pound of tomatoes, and those are plum tomatoes, 1 pound of zucchini, and 1 pound of summer squash. All right, into a glass bowl they go. Last but not least, the summer squash, which is not my favorite vegetable. I usually don't like it unless it's in a tian. Put them into a bowl. Okay, the last little bit of prep is we're gonna add some fresh thyme, about 1 teaspoon of fresh thyme. You just want the leaves. So I'm gonna pick the thyme, which usually takes a lot of time. No pun intended. I think that's how it got its name because it takes forever to prep thyme. You really don't want to use dried thyme here. I'm a big fan of using dried herbs when they're appropriate. Saves a lot of time and also a lot of money because dried herbs hold on for so long in the cupboard, whereas fresh herbs really have a pretty short shelf life. But in this dish, when it's all about fresh vegetables, you gotta go for the fresh thyme. So I'm getting rid of the woody parts, just keeping the tips, which are pretty tender. All right, that looks pretty good. Give it a quick chop. Set that aside for assembling the dish. Here I have 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm just gonna peel these. We're gonna add them to the onions in the pan. All right, so I'm just gonna use a garlic press. I'm gonna press the garlic right into the skillet of onions. Now the garlic just needs about 30 seconds to release its flavor into the onions. You'll start to smell it when it sautés. Look at those beautiful onions. Ah, there's the garlic. I can start to smell it. All right, that's it for the onions with a little bit of garlic. Time to turn the stove off and start building the tian. So here I have a beautiful 9 by 13 inch casserole dish, which is the right size for this. First thing I'm gonna do is grease it with about a tablespoon of olive oil. Make sure it's nice and evenly coating the bottom and the sides of the dish. All right, that's good. Next up, the onions. They're gonna go right into the bottom of the dish. Make sure all that lovely juice and onion flavor gets into the casserole dish. And that's exactly why I use a nonstick skillet. You want that flavor into the casserole dish. All right, we're gonna spread this out into a nice even layer. The other thing about this dish is you can assemble it at least a few hours early and then just put it in the oven right before people arrive so it's nice and warm. But I gotta tell you, this dish also tastes really good cold, if there's any leftovers. All right, nice even layer of caramelized onions. Now it's time to start shingling the vegetables. What you wanna do is take one of each veg. You're just gonna lay them in the dish. You're gonna get about 4 rows of the vegetables, one after the other. Nice, pretty colors. And this is exactly why you wanna try to buy vegetables that are the same diameter so that they line up nicely in the pan. So now that we've got our 4 layers, now is when I start to plug the other vegetables in so that it's nice and evenly packed. I've done it before where I try to pack them in right as you're supposed to from the get-go, but I'm always off. One side's really tight, one side's really loose. What you want is a nice even casserole so that it cooks through at the same rate. So now I just take a trio, and kind of shove them in the middle. I'm not gonna leave any vegetables behind in the bowls. That's my goal. And as you run out of one vegetable, you just try to slot the other ones in so that it looks like the same pattern. Nestle them in there. Another little tomato. I'll nestle them down in the bottom there. All right, last little zucchini. There you go. Ah, that's my kind of tian. All right, now I'm gonna top it with a tablespoon of olive oil. Just gonna drizzle it over the top. This is the fresh thyme, about a teaspoon of fresh minced thyme, sprinkling it over the top. A little salt and pepper. Okay, this tian is ready for the oven. 375 degrees is the oven temperature right on the middle rack. Total cook time is about an hour, 50 minutes or so. Now we're gonna cover this with foil for the first 30 minutes, but after that, take the foil off and I'm gonna sprinkle it with half a cup of grated Gruyere cheese. And then we're gonna let it finish cooking uncovered so the cheese melts and gets a little browned. All right, so foil on. Into the oven it goes.
We'll get you right back to the video. Check out Cook's Country's newest book, The Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook.
Over 16 seasons and more than 600 recipes are condensed into this cookbook, jam-packed with every recipe we feature on the show, plus stories, tips, and reviews.
Go on the road with Cook's Country and tour the U.S. through food. Get inspired by dishes from restaurants, regions, and chefs all over America.
All in this one convenient cookbook.
To order your copy of the Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook, scan the QR code or visit cookscountry.com to continue your Cook's Country journey.
All right, this grill has been heating up with all the burners on high for 15 minutes and it is screaming hot, which is perfect because now I'm gonna clean the grill. In fact, I always clean the grill right before I start cooking. Gives you a clean grill to start, but also it gives all that goop that's stuck on the grill time to dry out and reheat with the grill so that it comes right off super easy. So first up, get a good grill brush. You want to scrape the dickens out of these grill grates. Get off anything that's stuck on. All right, step 2 is that I'm gonna take a wad of paper towels and a nice long pair of tongs so I don't burn my hands. And here I have a bowl of vegetable oil. So I'm just gonna dip the paper towels in the vegetable oil and I'm gonna rub them over the hot grill grates several times. Now, if you're cooking something delicate like fish, feel free to do this 10, 12 times and really build up a nice non-stick surface. So what's happening is this oil is polymerizing on the hot grill grates, again, which just prevents food from sticking. It also, as you see, helps pick up any loose grime that's on the grill grate so it doesn't stick to your food. Now, time to grill the chicken. So here are the butterflied chickens that have been sitting in the fridge. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave one burner on. I'm gonna turn the other burners off. So we have a hot side and a cooler side. Essentially, I'm turning this grill into an oven. And you want to put the chickens on the cooler side of the grill. with the legs facing the hotter side, because the breast meat you want to cook more gently. The thigh meat can get to a higher temperature. Skin side down the whole time. All right. And you want to monitor that burner so that the grill registers between 350 and 375 degrees. So those chickens are going to take anywhere from 40 to 50 minutes. Again, we're looking for an internal temperature of 160 in the breast and about 175 in the thigh. Now I'm going to take all these lemons, including the lemon that I had zested. I'm going to put them right on the hot side of the grill, and I'm going to use the juice from these grilled lemons to make a fantastic vinaigrette for the chicken. And if you've never grilled a lemon, well, it's time to start, because the heat of the grill caramelizes the lemons and it makes the juice almost taste sweet. So we're going to grill these lemons for about 5 minutes until they're nice and charred. These lemons have been grilling for about 5 minutes, and you can see they're gorgeous. The juice is really starting to run, which is good. And you can see they're nice and caramelized. Oh, the flavor of grilled lemon juice. Once you get the hang of it, you're gonna always throw a lemon on the grill or two when you're cooking anything. All right, so the lemons are off. Now I'm gonna put the lid down, and I'm gonna continue to cook those chickens again for another 30 minutes or so. And I'm gonna keep my eye on the temperature dial. You really don't want the grill to get hotter than 375, or else the chicken will just cook too fast. So keep my eye on the chicken and we're off. Those chickens have been on the grill for about half an hour. Oh, they smell good. And again, I'm gonna take the temperature before we move them to the hot side to get nice and brown. We're looking for 160 in the breast or 175 in the thigh. There we go, 160 in the breast. We'll check the thigh for good measure. Although usually if the breast is cooked, the thigh is just right on. And the thighs can actually go over 175 a little bit. They can take a little extra heat because they're dark meat. They get nice and tender when they get a little hotter. All right, we're good to go. All right, so now it's time to move the chickens from the cool side of the grill to the hot side of the grill just for a few minutes, just to get them nice and browned. Now you want to handle the chickens as gently as you can at this point, because that skin's pretty delicate and the tongs can really tear it up. So you try to keep it intact as best you can. All right, they've been firing away here on the hot side. Time to take a look. Oh, now that is a beautiful chicken. Oh, yes, gorgeous. Now I'm just going to tent these chickens loosely with foil and bring them inside to rest while we pull the rest of the meal together. Oh. Now that, my friends, is a tian, bubbling around the outside. It smells like caramelized onions. You can see that the veg are cooked through, but they're not mushy and they still have that shape. Now this is obviously ripping hot, so we're gonna let this cool for a bit. Back here I have the chickens off the grill resting and that couscous staying warm. So now it's time to put it all together. So here I have the grilled lemons. I'm gonna juice a few of them to make about 1/3 of a cup of juice. That's for the sauce. The rest I'm just gonna cut up into wedges that we can garnish the platter with. So, the warm lemons juice so easily. Now I'm just gonna cut up the rest of these lemons and we can put them around the platter and people can grab them as they want to for their own chickens. Oh, the smell of the lemons. It smells so good. All right, put these back in the bowl till we're ready to assemble the platter. So now I'm gonna turn this grilled lemon juice into a quick sauce. That's just gonna take a little bit of sugar, just a teaspoon of sugar. I know I'm not a big fan of sweet sauces, but because this is such a lemony sauce, the sweetness just balances out some of the bitterness. So that's a teaspoon of sugar. Gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 2 teaspoons of Dijon, 2 tablespoons of minced fresh parsley, 1 clove of garlic, and I'm just gonna use a rasp grater because it makes the garlic a nice puree that works itself evenly into the sauce. Last but not least, 2/3 of a cup of olive oil, using my favorite little whisk, which I bought by accident. I thought it was just a really good deal online for a full-size whisk, and when it came to it was this mini, and at first I was bummed, but I wind up pulling this thing out all the time. All right, so that's 2/3 of a cup of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. While whisking, I'm slowly gonna add the oil, try to emulsify it. That Dijon is a wonderful emulsifier. All right, set that sauce aside. Now that chicken has been resting, so it's time to cut it up. Oh, beautiful chickens. For this, I'm gonna use a carving board, which has a nice moat around the edge. That just traps any juices that comes out of the chicken. Doesn't get all over your counter. There's lots of different ways to cut up a butterfly chicken for serving. But for this meal, which is on the rustic side, I'm just gonna cut it into big parts. So cutting up half a chicken, gonna cut up the drum and the thigh. I like cutting off the wings. Sometimes they don't even make it to the platter. It's what I call a kitchen snack. Now for the breasts, I'll cut them each in half, or about 2/3, 1/3, because this side's obviously thicker. That way people can grab a piece of white meat and a piece of dark meat. Add the lemons to the platter. Last, I'm gonna pour just a little bit of the sauce over the chicken, about 1/3 of a cup. This sauce is everything. All right, the tian, the chicken, last but not least, the couscous. There's a bowl for that. I love this speckled color of the couscous because that means it was nicely toasted, which adds a lovely nutty flavor. Finish off with a few fresh scallions. Summer dinner is served with, of course, the sangria. Now, the sangria, if you notice, there's that cylinder in the middle. That's filled with ice so that it keeps the sangria cold without watering it down. All right, into my favorite glasses. Sangria makes everything better. Now to make a tasting plate. Oh, yep. This right here is the summer dinner of champions. I love how tender the vegetables are, but they're still holding together. The thing about this dish is that it's more than a sum of its parts. You get the Gruyere, you get the onions, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of chicken. So moist, and that lemon sauce has such good zing to it, a little bit of sweetness. The couscous is such a nice foil underneath all these flavors. It's plain and relatively simple, but has enough of a backbone on its own. Topped with a little sangria. This is summer. See you next time. If you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free trial of our ATK Essential membership. While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app. So, what are you waiting for?